If you have ongoing exposure to controlling people, it's a virtual certainty that you're going to experience blurry boundaries, which is why I've created the extensive online course called This Is Me, Establishing Boundaries with the Controllers in Your Life. There's a link below that will give you all of the details, and I hope that you would find it therapeutic. I want you to think about a time that you may have been exposed to a little grade school child, let's say 7 or 8 years old, and that little kid has been caught doing something wrong or they've made a major blunder. When you try to talk with them about it, how common is it that they might say something like, well, I didn't do that, or someone else set it up and it was their fault, not mine, and they go into this excuse-making sense of denial. Well, when that happens, it can be annoying, and as you try to talk them through it, they may still have some struggles trying to admit what exactly happened, but then you walk away thinking, well, they're 7 years old. What if, though, you're not dealing with a 7-year-old child, but you're dealing with a full-blown adult who you're trying to talk about their mistakes or their foibles or their difficulties that they've been through in their life, and they do the exact same thing? Narcissists are known for using heavy amounts of denial, only the pathology that goes along with their style of denial is much more powerful than it is when it's a 7-year-old child. Narcissists do not have an acceptance of themselves. There are all sorts of things that are gurgling on the inside of themselves. There are all sorts of things that are part of their past that didn't play out well, but instead of saying, I accept the fact that I have a lot of pluses and minuses, and if you're going to get to know me, we're going to need to go into all of that. You won't hear a narcissist do that. And even if they're mistakes, or if they're blunders, or the facts about them are just well known, they'll still go into the denial phase. It's always somebody else's fault. I'm innocent. You can't say those things about me. If you want to talk with them about their history of difficult relationships, they can't go into that space other than tell you how awful those other individuals were. They offer you plenty of half-truths or secrets, or they go into heavy cover-up mode. Communication at the heart level is not going to happen because it's like, well, if we get too deep into that, then you might start seeing some of the cracks in my veneer, and we can't allow that to happen. You can see it, and you know that they're in this denial mode, and you can see that there's all sorts of things about themselves that they are not coming to terms with. It seems very clear to you, and yet that person is in massive denial. Narcissists are absurdly thin-skinned. They cannot, and when I say cannot, they cannot trust. They can't be open. They're deeply insecure, and that being the case, it prompts them to be controlling, and that's what you'll see. But that control is merely a cover for all of the things about themselves that they are unable to come to terms with. They don't accept themselves. And so this is why it's so common for you to hear all of this denial, and you won't hear certain words or phrases from them. For example, you won't hear a narcissist talk about, I've really struggled with certain feelings of rejection many times over, and it hurts. They won't do that. Now, they'll say they may have been rejected only if they can somehow or another pin the blame on someone else, or you won't hear them say something like, I don't know how to handle conflict well. I seem to get caught up in far too many of those issues of conflict. I know there's something wrong with me. I need to figure that out. They can't say that because they can't accept what that might imply about who they are. Or you'll certainly never hear them say this, and that is, I'm not nearly as invincible as sometimes I try to project myself as being. I'm actually pretty insecure. Now, that can be true about themselves, but if they have to go into that space, it's like, I can't accept me if I am insecure, and I don't want anybody to know that about me. And so they project their invincibility as a cover-up. They've been exposed to lots of judgment. And rather than them saying, when I feel judged, that really stings. And it gets to me at the core. And sometimes I wonder if I am maybe not good enough. No, they won't do that. They just try to destroy or dismiss the person who gives the judgments. They don't know how to respond when their own ineptitude is exposed. And rather than saying, I've got a lot of learning to do in that, they can't go into that space because they don't have a core acceptance of who they are. There are all sorts of forms of denial that they use that imply I don't accept myself. As an example, one of their forms of denial is that they're very dismissive. If you have something to say, they may say something like, you don't know what you're talking about, or that didn't happen, or you got your facts all wrong. They can use a lot of projection. Rather than saying, I have a problem with criticism, what they'll say is, you sure are a critical person. They see in other people that the things that they don't want to admit within themselves. If they're involved in a lot of troublemaking, they'll say, you're a real troublemaker, aren't you? Many times, part of their denial is they'll go into the minimalization mode. They may say, if you call them out on something, they may say, well, okay, certain things happen, but it's nothing like what you're describing. It was actually pretty easy. And whoever told you that, they're making a mountain out of a molehill. It wasn't that bad. In other words, I'm not that bad because I can't accept that I'm involved in things that really go poorly. They can use the denial of over idealization. For example, they can say things like, I had a great childhood, or my ex and I, we get along fabulous right now. And if you go talk to other individuals involved, it's like, no, we don't. I remember one man telling me that he and his brother fought, he said, literally every day of my childhood. And that's a whole lot of fighting. And then he would talk about how his father would come in there and yell at him and all of that. And then within 15 to 20 minutes, he was talking about how, man, I had the best childhood. I had the best family. It was just such a loving place. I'm thinking, wait a minute, you just said the other, but they go into this idealization kind of defense mechanism because they can't accept that, maybe I did have a troubled childhood. They justify very readily and willingly. That's another one of their denial elements. In other words, there's so much within themselves, there's so much about their past and their many troubles that when you say, let's talk about that, they illustrate that they can't do it, not because it's untrue, but because in their mind, it's like, if I accept some of the implications that go along with me admitting my faults, that means I'm a loser. And I can't manage that. That's how they learn to think. They can't say, I'm confused, or I feel frail, or I'm incapable of figuring out how to manage differences, or I don't really understand the nature of love very well. I'd like to, but it just doesn't seem to work out very well with me. In other words, narcissists cannot come to terms at all with the fullness of their own humanity. Only the self-serving parts are the parts that they're going to go into and acknowledge. And so you're over there thinking, well, every human being is a mixed bag. Every human being has pluses, they have minuses, there are things that they do well, there are things that have not gone well. If they have had some broken relations, sure enough, it may be more of that other person's fault. But even so, you'd have to say, but I know I contributed to it as well because I'm human as well, and I didn't always manage it as cleanly as I would like. They can't do that. Now, I want you to think about a basic question, and that is, are you going to be the one who succeeds in bringing down the narcissist's walls of denial? And are you going to be the one that says, let's come to terms with those things about yourself that are less than flattering? We'll just go ahead and accept you for what you are. Let's work on that. Are you going to be the one that succeeds in getting the narcissist to say, hey, sign me up for that. I'm in. Unfortunately, if you're in that high narcissism mode, you've got such an investment in your entitlement, in your self-absorption, in your need for affirmation, your need to be superior, that you go into all of these false narratives about what you are. And typically, when you try to call them out or talk with them about it, the walls by then have been so thick and so high and so well used that they can't say, you know what? I've got to get rid of all of that kind of thinking, and I've got to completely turn over a new leaf. Every now and then, you might find one that will say that, but the odds are quite low. So, that being the case, you can have all sorts of great insights, excuse me, and you can be honest about your own downside, but you simply cannot transfer your wisdom into someone who basically lives life with the thought that says, I already know everything about me that I need to know. Once you run into that wall of defense, you know that it's not going to end well. Let them be what they are, and you have to adjust your expectations accordingly. And if you're looking for someone to be connected with, it's going to be someone who says, you know, I do accept myself. Lumps, bumps, bruises and all, pluses, minuses. Would you like to hear about who I am? And then I'd like to hear about who you are. Short of that, it's going to be futility. And I do hope that videos such as this will give you some good insight about what you're dealing with. We talk about surviving narcissism. Sometimes you can't make that person change, but I do want to give you plenty of information about how you can be a better person by understanding and using knowledge about what you're dealing with. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button, I would encourage you to do so. There's a notification bell, and we'll keep more videos coming in your direction. Many times when you are up against someone that's like I've just described here, you could use some therapy. Below, we have a link for a sponsor that will take you to online therapy. And if you have a need to sift it out with a licensed professional counselor who's experienced, then I would encourage you to seek out the therapy that you could use. I've been referring people to therapy my entire life, and so it's something I believe in. It's helpful to have some objective eyeballs helping you figure something like this out. In addition, I put together courses, and they're very extensive, multiple videos inside each course with written material and questions, and then videos that go along with it. This is Me, which talks about establishing boundaries, Free to Be, about finding who you are despite the controllers. It takes a lot of work, but it's meant to walk you through a very therapeutic process there. I would encourage you to look at the links there. We have my books and other resources. You know, wouldn't it be nice if the narcissist could say, you know, I need to drop that wall of denial, and I need to learn to accept myself just for what I am. Wouldn't that be nice? It's not going to happen in a high percentage of cases. That being the case, though, I hope that you can be the kind of person that takes that mindset, and in doing so, it positions you to have a richness in your own relationship style, and it also allows you to go into your place of steadiness and firmness, but most importantly, it can take you to your place of peace.